All right, let's dive right into this explainer and uncover the truth behind what is honestly one of human history's absolute greatest mysteries. We're talking about the Egyptian pyramids. They've captivated us for generations, right? But they've also been a massive magnet for some pretty wild theories. So today, we're putting those myths to bed. We're going to look at what the actual science, the latest archaeology, and some brand new discoveries tell us about how these monumental structures were really built.
Now, think about this for a second. For decades, people have looked at a Bronze Age civilization. We're talking folks with absolutely no iron tools, no modern cranes, not even the widespread use of the wheel. And they've defaulted to theories about aliens or lost magic. Honestly, it almost seems easier to believe extraterrestrials dropped by to lend a hand than to accept ancient people pulled this off. But I promise you, what actually happened is infinitely more impressive than any alien theory could ever be.
To get how they did it, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer, almost impossible scale of the project. The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just consist of a few big rocks. It contains over 2.3 million individual blocks of limestone and granite. Just let that sink in. 2.3 million. The logistics of that are just mind-bending.
And to fully grasp that logistical nightmare, keep in mind that each of these 2.3 million blocks weighed anywhere from 2 to 15 tons. Early British explorers used to say lifting just one of these stones was like hauling a red London double-decker bus or a modern car up to the very top of St. Paul's Cathedral. Now imagine having to do that millions of times over, stacking them up to 40 stories high in the sky. Crazy, right?
What's also crucial here is contextualizing just how incredibly ancient this achievement is. The Great Pyramid of Khufu was built way back around 2560 BCE. To put that into perspective, this 147-meter-tall marvel predates the founding of the Roman Empire by 2 entire millennia. It stood proud as the tallest man-made structure on Earth for almost 4,000 years. I mean, this building is ancient to the ancients.
Moving on to Section 1, Busting the Pyramid Myths.
Before we talk about how they were built, we really need to talk about who built them. The most enduring myth out there, which was largely popularized by the Greek historian Herodotus, is that 100,000 enslaved people were whipped into building the Great Pyramid. But here's the catch. Herodotus wrote his account over 2,000 years after the pyramid was finished. He was as far removed from the pyramid builders as we are from Julius Caesar. The reality, uncovered by modern science, is entirely different. It was actually built by a workforce of around 20,000 highly respected, skilled, and well-paid professionals.
We know this because recent excavations of workers' towns right near Giza reveal a highly organized society that had some surprisingly modern amenities. Archaeologists have found massive on-site bakeries, breweries, and storage facilities. We've even found skeletal remains showing bone fractures that were perfectly set and healed. That tells us these laborers were medically treated and actually given time to rest and recover. They ate a rich, high-protein diet of meat, poultry, and fish, and they were paid in bread, beer, and silver. Some were even given the ultimate honor of having their very own tombs built close to the pharaoh's pyramid. You simply don't treat enslaved, disposable labor like that.
Now, what about those alien theories? Usually they're based on the quote-unquote impossible precision of the site, like the claim that the pyramids align exactly with Orion's belt. Well, science offers a much more elegant truth. That Orion theory has been largely dismissed, but researchers did find that during the summer solstice, if you stand at the Great Sphinx, you'll see the sun set precisely between the pyramids of Khufu and Khafre. This doesn't prove alien intervention, though. It just proves that ancient Egyptian astronomers understood the sun's movement with staggering mathematical accuracy, using nothing but the naked eye.
These engineers also had to perfectly level a 13-acre base to within just a couple of centimeters, likely using complex water channels, before a single stone was even laid. But that brings us to our next major question. Getting the base ready is one thing, but how on earth did they transport millions of colossal stones from the quarries to the Giza Plateau without wheels?
Let's dig into Section 2, Solving the Transport Puzzle.
This is where modern technology has literally rewritten the history books. By utilizing advanced satellite radar, geophysical surveys, and drilling deep ancient soil cores, scientists just recently made a massive discovery. They found 5 preserved layers of ancient soil belonging to a now extinct branch of the Nile River, which they dubbed the Aramut Branch. It was 64 kilometers long, extremely wide, and get this, it flowed directly past 31 different pyramids during the time they were built. This means workers didn't drag blocks for miles over open desert. They floated them right to the construction site on boats.
And the coolest part is, we actually have written proof of this. In 2013, an incredible primary source was discovered at an ancient Red Sea port. It's a papyrus scroll written by a middle-ranking inspector named Mir. This document essentially reads like a foreman's logbook. It explicitly details the water transport of white Tura limestone, which were the casing stones used for the outside of the pyramid, via a network of canals. Inspector Mir notes that the journey only took a few days by water. Just absolutely fascinating.
But you might be wondering, what about once the boats docked? For that final overland stretch to the pyramid base, ancient tomb paintings reveal a brilliantly simple physics trick. Workers would place the massive stones on wooden sleds. Then, a worker would stand at the front and pour water directly onto the sand. Wetting the sand perfectly binds the grains together, creating a firm surface that dramatically reduces friction. It effectively halved the number of men required to pull a 2-ton block. It's so simple, yet so genius.
So, getting the blocks to the base of the plateau, solved. But the true engineering enigma, the one that still sparks fierce debate among Egyptologists today, remains. How did they lift 2.3 million blocks into the sky to a height of 147 meters?
That brings us to Section 3, engineering the upward climb.
Without a giant modern crane, you obviously have to get incredibly creative. Experts have proposed a fascinating variety of solutions to this vertical puzzle. The most widely accepted theory is an external ramp. But here's the catch. To reach 147 meters, a straight ramp would need to be so long it would require almost as much material as the pyramid itself. Because of that, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed an internal spiral ramp, essentially a corkscrew tunnel built inside the structure. Meanwhile, a recent study of the older step pyramid of Djoser suggests early Egyptians might have even used check dams and a hydraulic lift system, utilizing water pressure to elevate the stones, which is pretty wild to think about.
Now, while that hydraulic theory is definitely fascinating, most of the hard evidence leans heavily toward ramps. Backing up the ramp theory, archaeologists actually found an unfinished temple wall or pylon down in Luxor. Because the ancient builders abandoned the project midway through, they left behind all their construction infrastructure. And right there were the distinct remnants of a massive sloping mud brick ramp. This definitively proves that physical ramps were a standard, heavily utilized engineering technique in ancient Egypt for reaching those monumental heights.
And you know, this mystery is still actively unfolding right now. Back in 2017, the Scanned Pyramids project utilized advanced particle imaging to literally look inside Khufu's pyramid. They discovered a massive, previously unknown hidden cavity dubbed the Big Void. When researchers carefully inserted these tiny cameras into the narrow shafts, they didn't find alien artifacts. Nope. They found red ink graffiti, worker logs keeping track of their shifts, and traces of internal mud ramps. It strongly suggests the builders may have actually combined multiple methods, maybe using external ramps for the massive base and internal ramps as they got higher up.
All right, final section, number 4, the real master builders.
It is really time to give credit where credit is profoundly due. The Great Pyramid wasn't the result of one single clever trick. It was a decades-long, masterclass coordination of river transport networks, skilled labor guilds, astronomy, friction management, and just sheer human willpower. And it was all led by incredibly masterful engineers and elite overseers, like Ankaf, the pharaoh Khufu's half-brother, who is widely believed to have overseen much of this colossal project.
There's a wonderful saying that applies perfectly here. The truth is almost always more interesting than the myth. Ultimately, attributing this absolute masterpiece to aliens, or writing it off as the product of brutal slave labor, well, it really robs tens of thousands of ordinary, undeniably brilliant humans of their incredible hard-earned achievement.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. 4,500 years later, the Great Pyramid is still standing. The question was never whether ancient humans were capable of something extraordinary. The real question is, why do we keep forgetting that they were? Let that sink in for a bit, and keep questioning what human ingenuity is truly capable of when we work together.